Hey survivors, welcome back to Chaos Cabin. Today I'm going to do a base build / tour video in 7 Days to Die, the Legacy Console Edition. This is a follow-up to my worst crash ever video, which I will link in the description below. If you watch this, you might run the risk of possibly learning some new building and defense tips, tricks, and strategies. Let's go! As you may remember from last video, my new addition with all my gear and appliances collapsed into a glorious pile of rubble because I hadn't built it strong enough, because I just didn't have much in the way of resources, and so it was rather spindly. I've got some new ideas how I'm going to do it this time, so let's take a look at some of my new ideas and the building techniques I use to employ them. Here you can see that I've rebuilt that skywalk, that catwalk that goes from one building to another. That had been wiped out over there on the left. The theme I want to go back with is medieval castle. So I'm going to connect all four of these buildings so that they will be one large building. And I'm going to have to make those catwalks more like hallways that go from one building to another. All this is going to be stripped off and rebuilt, and I'm going to wrap that crenellation on around the roof all the way around. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the windows up there. I want to do something to make them look more castle-like. All of this skirting and the balconies will be removed and redone in a more stylistic fashion to reflect the castle design style. This is the new addition. You can see this time I went with full walls instead of columns. It's much stronger. First two blocks are concrete, and then it's a combination of cobblestone and flagstone. Cobblestone where it needed to be stronger because those are 1,500 points. Flagstone is only 500, but it works great for walls, decorative elements, and even columns, as long as they're not going to be damaged by explosions or direct contact. So that's why I didn't use any of that below 2 blocks. As you can see, concrete is not impenetrable, so you will need to repair it from time to time. Now we'll take a quick look at the new addition. I won't spend too much time on it because it is far from finished. Here's the walkway that connects to the main building. I use wood frames as placeholders. Those 3 show where I'll be putting a fireplace. These 2 show where I'll be putting the workbench. Here's my forge and construction supplies. Guns and ammo in the top box. Gun parts in the bottom box. The chem station. Medical supplies and campfire for cooking. Food in the bottom box, drinks in the center box, and stuff on its way to the trader on the top box. And that last supply box is for stuff I haven't had a chance to sort through just yet. I used the floating construction concept so that there's not a lot of wall between me and that great view. I made a video on that. If you're interested, I'll try and leave a link in the description below. Here's me just now realizing that I haven't put a bedroll down, and if I die, I could end up anywhere. These cabinets give me a place to store my biome-specific clothing and other personal items. I'm not going to spend any time on this level because I haven't really done anything to it since the crash. I usually work on the exterior during the daytime and the interior at night. Here's a quick look at the melee room. You can tell that I need to upgrade the concrete by the different colors of stone, but at least it's safe enough for now. Oh, there's some repair. When this is done, this will all be fully hardened concrete, but right now I do not have a mixer, so I can't do that. I lost that in the crash. I'll have to get another mixer. I will probably put a fully enclosed hallway from this building to that building, but it won't be a priority as it's functional right now and I have so many other things to do, but I will do it towards the end. This building does not look like a castle at all. What I'm going to do here is go around the building and knock off anything that sticks out, like this eave here and the trim down the side, so that I can then come around and go straight up the sides with 2 blocks of concrete and then the rest with flagstone, and that will allow me to keep the entire house inside a shell where I can go in and loot the lootable items that are in the house still. Remember, everything in a cabinet or a medicine chest or refrigerator or stove or even a toilet respawns after you've been away for about 30 days. All of this has to come off because even though it only appears to be a couple of inches thick because it's just a shutter, it is seen as a full block by the programming. So it precludes me from mounting anything on the side of the house. So off it has to come. Of course, this porch has to go. I do think I'm going to keep the original footprint of the house and keep that kind of an odd L shape. It'll add a little bit of interest to the design. But it's all got to go. At least when I tear this chimney off, I'll be reclaiming some of the rock. It's pretty common to have to build impromptu scaffolding to tear off the high parts of a building or to put on the high parts of a building. Oh crap, that's tonight? Alright, I'm going to go inside and deal with Horde Night, and then we'll pick up where we left off here in just a few minutes. I'll be right back. Well, Horde Night was a lot wilder than I anticipated, and the damage to the base will have to be attended to. But not right now. I'm going to harvest as many of these blue spruce trees as I can and replant them. I want the castle to be surrounded by this white forest. I'm going to build an elevated hallway between this building and that building, and the first step in that is finding out how far apart the buildings are so I know where to put my columns. So I like to use wood frames to do that measuring because it gives me a visual clue, and if I lose track I can easily go back and count again. And so I'll lay them down like this. You don't have to lay one down right after another. You can skip one or two as long as you maintain your count in your head. In this case, these buildings are 21 blocks apart, and so I'll make one column right at the center point and then split the difference on either side and put another column, because those blocks on top of the column will span without collapsing at that distance. You can usually go 5 blocks in from either direction for a total of 10 from one column to another, but you'll want to go from one column 5 in and the other column 5 in. Now what I'm going to do is measure about 5 blocks in, and these buildings are set evenly, so if I come the same amount of blocks in from the inside wall on each of them, my hallway will match up. So I'll measure this out. That's 6. I think I'll remove that cabinet, and so that'll be, I'll have a block at the 5th position and the 6th position, and then I'll do the same on the other building. What I'll do is get rid of this, and then I'll take a pickaxe and cause some damage to the interior wall here. That will also show on the exterior, and that way I can tell if I'm lining the two holes in the building up. Remember, I want to save as many lootable items as I can, but about all you ever get out of those cabinets is paper, which I don't seem to use for anything. Okay, see the block I damaged over there right in the center? I just need to match that on this side. Alright, I've measured in. Now I'll knock this block out, and I can look directly over at the matching block on the corresponding building. It's almost dark, so I'm going to measure this out and determine where I'm going to put the columns in and call it a night. I've hauled in all new dirt and replanted the garden up here. Now what I'm going to do is come out here an extra block. Before I was just 1 block out, and I want to have 2 blocks, so I've got plenty of room to tend the garden, and I'll walk 1 column or 1 row, and that'll give me room to turn around and come back and walk the next row, whether I'm harvesting or planting. So now I'll put this flagstone on here and give it a kind of a castle crenellated look. You'll see more when I'm done. As you can see, glancing in my menu here, I do not have a lot of resources and not a lot of rock or concrete or cobblestone. When I run out, I will probably head to another base and a trader and see if I can't find, in addition to going out and harvesting some rock, I will also look for a mixer so I can make cement again. Alright, let's go down to the ground and look back up here from that perspective and see what this looks like. Let me know what you think. I plan to go all the way around with that style. And then of course I'll do it to that building as well. Now I'm working on the elevated hallway that will connect the 2 buildings. I will again use the floating technique, not only to make sure it is in keeping with the way I've already been working, but because this saves a lot on material. I have a buttload of wood, and I can use the wood in this floating technique, so I don't have to use up all my rocks, cobblestone, and concrete. Notice I kind of got ahead of myself and messed up there. I meant to put the flagstone ramp in there, laid sideways. That way I get a better view left and right. But I put the wood piece down first. I had to knock it out. You'll notice I'm using wood beams up there on the top. That gives me plenty of strength. It doesn't use up my flagstone, but it will be covered with flagstone from the exterior. I'm pretty sure this will make more sense as the build nears completion. I'm going to go up here and put a balcony on here. I haven't quite figured out how I want to do that. I'm going to start with flagstone, and just to give it a little more character, I'm going to use flagstone stairs and flip them upside down. At the corner here, I'm going to use a flagstone block. In flagstone, you cannot make a corner piece. It just isn't available. I could make it out of cobblestone, but that uses a lot more cobblestone than it does flagstone per block. And again, I'm low on materials. So later I may knock this block out and put in a cobblestone corner piece, or I may just knock it out completely and go for a new look. But one of the things I have to take into consideration is that if I'm gone from an existing structure for a while, that is one that the game generated, zombies respawn inside. So I'm connecting these 4 buildings, 5 now, together, and running the risk of zombies spawning inside and then all coming to wherever I am when I get back after being gone for a while and converging on me. So to prevent that, I put choke points everywhere I can by leaving out the first set of stairs because they have a hard time jumping up. Earlier I said the wood beams at top here would be covered by flagstone. That I was wrong. I meant to say they'd be covered by shingles. Alright, let's go down to ground level, look up here and see how this is progressing. I'll do that and you can kind of get an idea of what the style is going to be. And then of course bear in mind it will go all the way over to the other building, and then I'll have a similar hallway attaching all these buildings, but it's going to look like that. And you can see how I'm using wood for the primary construction in a lot of places because it's strong enough and it's cheap. I have a lot of trees around here. And then I cover it with flagstone or shingles or some other building material to give it a kind of a richer, better character. I've got my crenellated wall up, so got that going for me. Now you'll notice that if it's an even number of blocks, you cannot come up with an even, how's that work? If it's an odd number of blocks, you can come up with an even number of crenellations. If it's an even number of blocks, you come up with an odd number of crenellations. So when that happens, I just work from the corners in, and then I'll double up in the center, and it looks more like a stylistic design instead of an F-up, a screw-up. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm putting down hay bales so that I can nerd pull up off of those first couple of concrete blocks, and then when I get to the top I can just step off and drop down onto the hay bales without causing any damage to myself. Normally you can drop 5 blocks, but I've already broken my leg once, and so then you can only drop, I think, 4, and I don't need to cause any more damage to myself. because I am very low on resources, one of those resources being med kits. You can use this trick to go pretty much any height. I've got one video that I did where I went, I don't remember what it was, 30 or 40 blocks high and just stepped off and no damage. And I use this when I'm building a mine. I'll have a shaft, one with a ladder to come back up, and then a shaft where I just drop down 40 blocks. No damage. Okay, so there's the columns that'll hold the hallway going from one building to the next. And yeah, look at that. One med kit. Like I said, I'm not in good shape. Alright, now I'm going to go up here and I'm going to lay in the frames for that floor. It's going to be 4 blocks wide and then cobblestone trim on either sides for a total of 6 blocks wide. I'll do this as far as I can and then pull that balcony that goes around the other building off and run this all the way up to the building. So I'll get that done and we'll go on to the next phase. And here's what this looks like from the ground view perspective. Not sure if I like those full blocks at each corner on that bottom of the trim there. I may just remove those or replace them with cobblestone corner pieces. And I don't like that little happy face. It's supposed to be a castle, damn it. I'm gonna have to get rid of that and put in something more aggressive looking. Alright, here we go. I'm going to finish out this walkway, and again I'm using this floating material design. I'll nerd pole up here and start putting in the roof. Here's how these plates need to be put together to achieve that floating construction style. These wood plates will hold as much downward pressure as concrete or steel. It's only when you start going out laterally that you have to worry about the strength of the construction material. Now I'll put in some standard wood frames, and that will be the basis for the roof. And on the outside of that, I will put wooden shingles. And now I'll put in the ceiling. This is a pretty typical standard wood ceiling. When I get better established and I'm growing lots and lots of chrysanthemum, I may come back in and knock this all out and redo it as an arched redwood ceiling. Well, last night was Horde Night, and it was a pretty active night indeed. I was fighting a cop, and the cop was next to a car sitting out there, and when the cop detonated, as I was not able to kill him before he detonated, that in turn detonated the car, and it created this crater and blew away a bit of my base, primarily the entrance coming up. Let's go up top and look at that from a different angle. Yeah, that walkway went out a couple more blocks and then dropped down using a ladder. Well, I've already got a broken leg, and so I'm not going to jump down from here. That would severely impact my recovery time. Let's take this other route, and we'll go down there and survey the damage. You can quickly see parts of my base are scattered all over the road and even across the street. Fortunately, that's mostly just parts of the staircase and the columns leading up to the walkway, but it's also parts of the facade and the skirting around there. Yeah, that's a big hole, all right. I should have wrenched that car away a long time ago, but I left it there so I could re-loot it. It probably looks worse than it really is, but I have to replace that wood every time a cop blows up near the wall, and I'll definitely replace all that with concrete once I'm set up to produce concrete again. For now, I think I'll go take my frustrations out on this straggler from last night's horde. Oddly satisfying. Okay guys, I think I'm going to take a break from building and I'm going to go ranging out there and see if I can't find a cement mixer. Like, share, subscribe, and I will catch you next video.